So anyways, I fired and fired, waiting for that bad guy to go down. He never goes down. I run out of ammo. He's still standing there with that gun pointed at me, but I was just praying that he did not come around and just stitch me up the side, because I was a sitting duck there. I was completely out of ammo with my handgun, and I was still trying to get my rifle out of the trunk of my squad car. Now again, remember, this is taking place in split seconds. Ethical Preparedness, 50 caliber, freedom seat! In my last couple of videos, some of you did express your concern in a constructive way about me shooting into a tree. But my gosh, the way some of yous reacted, you would have thought I was clubbing baby seals while burning styrofoam. Anyways, folks, this is an old, dying tree that's mostly hollowed out and is probably going to blow over in the next storm. So folks, I've really been struggling if I was going to talk about my self-defense police action shooting and release it here on YouTube, on my channel here on YouTube. And I may still just not, I don't know. One of the reasons I am struggling with the decision if I'm going to put this on YouTube or not is because when you talk about something, it can be misconstrued by many people as bragging about something. And getting into a self-defense shooting is definitely nothing that you want to brag about. And especially my self-defense police action shooting definitely was nothing to brag about, is nothing to brag about to begin with. And we'll get into why that was nothing to brag about to begin with in a few moments. But there's two reasons that I am deciding that I'm probably going to do this video. Reason number one is because as I relay my experience with it, how that self-defense police action shooting affected me both mentally and physically, both during the shooting and also after the shooting, when I can relay my experiences to you, then if you are ever forced to shoot a bad guy, a violent criminal in self-defense, then you can kind of have an understanding or kind of a warning of how it will probably also affect you both mentally and physically, again, during and also after your self-defense shooting. And the second reason that I've been considering doing this video for the channel is because when you do videos on YouTube or on the internet about a certain topic, you have to show that you have credibility and experience in that subject. Otherwise, people that watch your videos won't take you seriously. So unfortunately, in my case, since I do a lot of videos on self-defense using firearms, then this kind of helps show that I do have experience and credibility in that subject matter that I'm talking about. So anyways, the first thing that I want people to know about my self-defense police action shooting is that it was the absolute worst day of my life. I got into law enforcement to help people, not to harm people. Contrary to what the media wants you to believe, most police officers get into law enforcement to help people, not to shoot people. The other thing that I want to remind people is that I almost died that day. That bad guy caught me by surprise and had me at gunpoint while my gun was still in my holster. So when I say this was the worst day of my life, it was the worst day of my life. Something else that I want you to know of is this shooting did not go down like you see on TV. Self-defense shootings are rarely like what you see, what happens, at how Hollywood portrays them. I was not all calm and suave, nor did I give a zingy one-liner like, "Go ahead, punk, make my day." It was a cluster, to say the least. And then obviously I have to be careful about how much information I give in this video for legal reasons, but for transparency reasons, and then also of what it can teach you to better help you be a better self-defender. I think this video is important. So now let's just get on with the video and talk about the day that I was forced to point my gun at another human being and pull the trigger. So me and my beat partner had gotten dispatched to go to a house to take a guy into custody, to arrest a guy that had an open warrant. Now my beat partner had arrived moments before I did, and he had already parked out on the front street, and he had already walked to the rear of the house to watch that back door in case that bad guy went running out the back door as soon as he realized the police were there to take him into custody. So then moments later, I pulled up Now, I didn't park directly in front of this house. I ended up parking a couple of houses away down the street. And when I first got there, I did not know. I knew I was close to the suspect's house, but I did not know exactly which house was his. And I also kind of got to say that this is one of those cookie cutter neighborhoods where the houses are really close together. So it's kind of hard when you're looking at them at an angle. It's kind of hard to tell where one house ends, where the next one begins, again, because they're so close together. So I had arrived just moments later, got out of my squad car, and I was trying to look at the addresses to see exactly which house was my suspect's house. And before I could figure out exactly which house was my suspect's house, this dude comes walking out of this house and starts walking towards the sidewalk and the mailbox area. So now I'm trying to figure out, is that my suspect's house? Now, I had never seen this guy before. I just know that we were dispatched to this address to take this guy by this name into custody. So I did not know if that was my suspect's house yet, and nor did I know if that was our suspect that was walking out to the sidewalk area. Was this our suspect, or was this just some dude going out to check his mail? So as I'm watching this guy walk to his, what I think is walking to his mailboxes, I never saw the gun in his hand. But suddenly he turns, sees me, and then boom, up that gun comes directly pointed right at me. Now, even though I was 35 or 40 yards away, when you have a gun pointed directly at you, you don't feel like it's 35 or 40 yards away. That barrel of his gun, that black circle of that barrel of his gun pointing directly at me, looked like a cannon pointing at me. Looming, it's called looming, when whatever is going to hurt or kill you appears much larger than what it really is. So as soon as I realized that bad guy had his gun pointing straight at me, what immediately went through my mind was the first thing was, holy cow, this is really happening. And the second thing that went through my mind is, you are justified in using deadly force in this situation, and you better do it fast before you are dead, because this gun is already pointing at you. Now, I need to clarify that it took me longer to describe what my thoughts were than because this actually all happened in just split seconds. So obviously, as soon as I saw his gun pointing at me, I immediately pulled my gun and started firing at him. Now, I need to kind of back up, and the fact was that I had gotten called in to work the night before on a separate case. So I actually, without saying too much, I actually was not in full uniform that day. I was still very easily identifiable as a police officer. I had, said police on me and everything like that, but I was not in my normal uniform. I did not have my duty belt on me, and I had what was called my call-out gun, which was a baby Glock. I normally carry a full-size Glock while on duty, but that one freaking day, I had a baby Glock on me instead of my normal full-size Glock. So as soon as I saw his barrel of his gun pointing at me, I pulled my gun and started firing at him. And I will tell you this, I will never carry a baby Glock again, because when I was trying to control that little bitty firearm and fire rapidly at this bad guy, that little small frame was very difficult for me to control, to keep those sights lined up. I remember when I was actually firing at that bad guy, trying to keep if this is my rear sights, my front sight, trying to keep my sights lined up and having a difficult time with that small little frame. Also too, within seconds, I ran out of ammo. Within seconds, I ran out of ammo, and because I did not have my duty belt on me, I did not have spare magazines on me. That was a huge mistake, number one, for me, not carrying extra ammo, not having extra mags on me. Nothing would have prevented me the night before from grabbing an extra mag and just throwing it in my pocket, but I didn't do it. My bad, my mistake. Lesson learned, and almost learned the hard way. Now, as I was trying to keep my sights lined up and my gun aimed at that bad guy that already had his gun pointed at me, I never heard my gunshots. I had completely no hearing at all. And this is called auditory exclusion. The loud gunshots didn't deafen me. My fight or flight in my body took over, And again, that's called auditory exclusion. That is not an unusual thing to happen to people that get into self-defense shootings, that they never hear their gunshots. The only way that I knew that my gun was firing was because, again, I saw my slide working back and forth as I was trying to keep my sights lined up on that bad guy. So again, I ran out of ammo within seconds with that little baby Glock. And when I ran out of ammo, the first thing I did was reach down where my my spare magazines are normally kept. No spare magazine. Again, huge mistake on my part. And that bad guy was still standing there with his gun pointed at me. Now, also too, and I need to back up for a second, there's certain things about that shooting that I don't remember, and a huge one that I don't remember about that shooting is I do not remember giving voice commands before I fired my gun, but I did because nearby video surveillance did not pick up video of the shooting, but it did pick up the audio, and the audio did show that I yelled voice commands right before I fired my gun. So right there are some important points to remember. I had auditory exclusion. I never heard my gunshots. I had lapses in memory. I never remembered, to this day, I do not remember yelling those voice commands. Also, how quickly I ran out of ammunition and did not have a spare magazine. So anyways, I fired and fired, waiting for that bad guy to go down. He never goes down. I run out of ammo. He's still standing there with that gun pointed at me. I thought he had actually already fired at me. And the next thing I did then was I ran to my trunk to start deploying my patrol rifle. Hey, these handguns are just to fight your way back to your fighting rifle anyways, right? So anyways, while I was back there, I don't remember opening up the trunk to my squad car. I do remember getting my rifle out, and at that point, I could no longer see that bad guy, but I was just praying that he did not come around and just stitch me up the side, because I was a sitting duck there. I was completely out of ammo with my handgun, and I was still trying to get my rifle out of the trunk of my squad car. Now again, remember, this is taking place in split seconds. But so again, I'm sitting there praying, man, I am out of ammo. I am a sitting duck. If this guy comes around the corner, you know, I already fired 8 shots at him. He didn't go down. If this guy comes around the corner, I am dead. Now, luckily, what had happened, because I had forgot all about my beat partner, my beat partner was coming around the side of the house and was starting to come to the front yard. And then when my beat partner started hearing me fire at that bad guy, then my beat partner realized, oh, hey, the stuff is hitting the fan. This is serious, you know. So while I'm getting my patrol rifle out of my trunk, my beat partner actually engaged the bad guy. And it actually ended up working out. My beat partner did not realize that bad guy had come out the front door and was now in his own front yard. And so my beat partner was actually heading back around to the front yard and would have gotten caught by surprise. Again, because this guy already had the gun in his hand, my beat partner would have got caught by surprise at a much closer distance than me. My beat partner would have gotten caught by surprise with this bad guy. So my gunfire kept that bad guy busy and his attention off of my beat partner. And then when I ran out of ammo, then my beat partner engaged him, and then that kept the bad guy busy with my beat partner while I finished getting my rifle out. So anyways, I finished getting my rifle out of the trunk of my squad car, and I immediately come out from behind my squad car, and I immediately put my sights to my rifle on that guy's center mass area. And I started to pull the trigger, even having the slack coming off of that trigger, and at the very last second I realized that while that guy was still standing, he was no longer pointing the gun at me. In fact, the gun was no longer in his hand, but he was still standing there like this. So at the very last second, I took my finger off that trigger and did not pull that trigger, and I'm glad it worked out that way. And another thing too that really struck me was looking through that rear sight of my rifle really made me realize how much tunnel vision that rear sight automatically gives you. And I do remember me thinking that, but having to fight that tunnel vision during that whole time. So now I start advancing on that guy. He's still standing there like this. Now the handgun now is at by his feet, and so I'm advancing on him and my beat partner's advancing on him. So we're advancing on him like what you can call that tactical L. And we're yelling stuff at him, but I don't remember what we were yelling. I just remember that we were yelling commands at him, get down on the ground, whatever, I don't know. But we were yelling stuff at him. The one thing I do remember that we yelled at him is as we got closer to him, then we started seeing the blood. Just at that time, we just started seeing the blood just starting to just really absorb and show throughout his clothing. It was a ton of blood. And as we got closer to him, my beat partner on one side, me on the other side, I've got him at rifle point, my beat partner's got him at his handgun point, for lack of better terms. And that guy's just looking at us, and he just looks at us for a second, then he goes down onto his knees. He's still upright, but now he's down on his knees. And what I do remember yelling at him was what the F were you thinking? We were so angry at him that he had caused us to shoot him. We were angry about that, because again, contrary to what the media wants you to believe, we do not like getting into shootings. So anyways, that guy looks up at us, and again, he's on his knees. He's upright, but he's on his knees, and he goes down to all fours. Then he comes back up to his knees, and he looks at us, but he's not saying nothing. The blood is just going everywhere at this point. I mean, that really messes with your head when you see that, okay? And he looks at us, but it's like he's looking through us. I mean, he's looking at us. I guess he's registering that we're yelling, "What were you thinking? Why did you do that for?" And then all of a sudden, his eyes roll up into the back of his head, and then just down he goes into a pool of blood. We were told, we don't know this, but we were told that we hit him twice. Once in the arm, and that hit that major artery in his arm, and that was causing the majority of that blood, because that was shooting out like a garden hose, for lack of better terms. We were also told that we hit him in the stomach, so he went down into this pool of blood. So anyways, long story short, the guy was on meth psychosis, and again, my understanding was we hit him twice. We don't know for certain, but we hit him twice. Once in the arm and hit that major artery, which is where most of the blood was coming from. We were also told that we hit him in the stomach. Again, we don't know this, but again, the guy was on meth psychosis. And he did survive the shooting, which again, I'm very happy of. I just wouldn't want something like that on my conscience. And I don't know what he's doing to this day, but hopefully he used that as a lesson to change his life around. And this is another important fact is again, we were told that we hit him twice, again in the arm and that major artery, and then in the stomach area. We were never told, because it's an outside agency, police agency, that does the investigation, and along with the prosecutor's office. They do it as a, I guess what you call an MDT, multidisciplinary team investigation. So we were never told whose shots hit him or anything like that. It could have been that it was both of my beat partner shots that hit him. It could have been one shot for me and one shot for my beat partner, or again, it could have been both of them and my beat partner that hit him. We don't know. My beat partner was a lot closer to him than I was. So it could be both of those shots could have came from my beat partner. We just, to this day, will probably never know. But I think this part is important for transparency reasons, to let you know that my shooting was not all calm and collective and cool and like you see on Hollywood. It was a cluster. Again, it was the worst day of my life. Now, as soon as the other officers showed up at the scene, the first thing they started doing was asking us, "What happened? What happened?" Now, I did what my own tips are for you guys on this channel, which is when the other cops arrived, even though I was an on-duty police officer, it doesn't matter when it comes time for court. So when the other officers arrived and started asking me, "What happened? What happened?" I said, "He pointed a gun at me. I fired my gun in self-defense." Now, I don't want to say anything else until I speak with my police union attorney. So if you kind of recognize what I say that in my videos to you guys, which is the bad guy did this, that put me in fear for my life. I defended myself. Now, I don't want to say anything else until I speak with my attorney and I wish to be taken to the hospital. Now, me and my beat partner did not get taken to the hospital. We got whisked up. Our guns were taken as evidence and we were whisked up and we were taken back to the police department and put into a room with the critical incident response team. We were not allowed to leave. We were basically detained back at the police department with our guns confiscated while outside agencies investigated that scene and talked to witnesses and collected video surveillance and everything else that goes on with the shooting incident scene. And that time back at the police department, immediately following that self-defense police action shooting, was absolutely no picnic. We were hearing that the guy had died at the hospital. Then we heard that he was still in critical condition and getting ready to go into surgery, whatever. We was just hearing different things that was just really messed with your emotions. We were able to make real quick telephone calls to our wives to let them know we were okay because this was getting ready to hit the news. So I was able to call my wife and say, "Hun, you're getting ready to see on the TV, there was a police action shooting. I was involved, but I am okay. Now I gotta go. I'm being held here at the police department." So we were held at the police department again for several hours while the outside agencies investigated the police action shooting. And even though me and my beat partner were just sitting there talking to the critical incident response team, even though we were just sitting there and not doing anything, they were having us chug water because when your adrenaline goes through the roof like that, your body will release a lot of toxins in your blood, so you want to drink a bunch of water to help wash that stuff out. But anyways, even though we were just sitting there in air-conditioned, climate-controlled office, our blood pressure was still so high. And I'm talking, this is now 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours after the shooting. Our blood pressure and our adrenaline was still so high that we were sweating profusely. We were sweating like if we'd ran a marathon in 100-degree weather. I mean, just the sweat was dripping off of us. And my gosh, the BO, the body odor that comes off of you. Now, they had to photograph us to show what we were wearing, if we had any injuries or anything like that. And then eventually we were taken to the hospital for drug tests, which is standard after a police action shooting. And then 5 or 6 hours later, we were finally released to go home. And it was just about 5 or 6 hours later that my blood pressure finally went down, because leading up to that, my blood pressure was so high, my ears felt hot, felt warm to the touch. So then finally, later on that night, me and my beat partner were released to go home to be with our families and our wives. And then about 3 or 4 days later, I don't remember which one it was, but it was after I had 2 nights of sleep that I then met with my police union attorney, and then he helped me write up my detailed statement of what occurred. Now, what he was there for was for me to relay what happened, and then he said, "Hey, you need to word it this way, because if you word it that way, it can be easily misconstrued by a greedy civil attorney or whatever. If you word it this way, you're saying the same exact thing, but you're not using words that can be misconstrued and used against you later on in court." So then I gave my detailed statement to the outside agency that was investigating it, so they could close their case. I mean, it was ruled a completely justified shooting. And then over the next days and even leading into weeks and even months, that incident kept replaying over and over and over again in my head. And what that was is that was just one of my body's, one of my brain's, one of the ways that my brain, by replaying it, would get all of those different memories that I had that were kind of out of whack, kind of out of sequence, and then put them back into chronological, I really can't talk, get those memories back into chronological order the way they happened. And then even weeks later, there was still things, and even months later, and now even like over 2 years later, there are still things about that police action self-defense shooting that I just don't remember. I don't remember giving the voice commands. I don't remember running to the trunk of my squad car. I don't remember opening the trunk to my squad car. I don't remember closing the trunk to my squad car. It's just a lot of little blanks in my head, in my memory, that I just don't remember, which again is natural when you were honestly in fear for your life. So folks, in future videos, when I talk about how you may have lapses of memory after a self-defense shooting, you may want to listen. When I talk about future videos, how your body will have certain reactions, how you will maybe lose your hearing and everything like that, you may want to listen. When I talk in future videos about doing firearms training where you are practicing giving voice commands, also shooting and movement, you may want to listen. So folks, if you ever get involved in a self-defense shooting, many people are going to judge your actions harshly because these people will never have been involved in a self-defense shooting themselves, so they're going to hold your actions up to an unrealistic expectation because all they know of about self-defense stuff is what they see on TV and on Hollywood. So to learn what 90% of even gun owners don't even know about self-defense shootings, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn that powerful knowledge. Anyways, folks, that is enough internet for me today. It is time for me to go train. And folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching, and I pray that you have a good night.